This is a podcast where we interview experts, share stories, get some insight from people who are working in, for people who are doing engineering every day, working in the field every day, and just hearing from them what inspires them, what makes them tick, what kind of understanding to a dimension level, how they see the world, and to learn from them and draw some experiences and share ours as well. And today I have with me a very talented and very intelligent as well. All the people I host are intelligent, by the way. And she's called Sana, and excited for you to hear her story and what's to come ahead. All right. Hi, Sana.
Hi, Wesley. Thanks for that.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me over. So maybe you can just give a brief introduction about myself. I'm Sana Musanje, mechanical engineer, though in Algeria it was called energetic, more to do with energy. Yeah, so I have a master's degree and 7 years of experience so far in the field in different areas. And I also like to refer to myself as a hustler because I'm always doing so many things, engineering-wise and non-engineering related. And yeah, my goal is never to be one-dimensional. So I hope my story can inspire upcoming females and males as well who are trying to figure out where they best are suited in their journey.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so good to have you. Thanks for honoring the invite.
Welcome.
Mechanical engineering. Personally, I did civil and mechanical. My dad is a mechanical engineer, but I was like, it sounded scary. It's one of those things where they're like, oh, there are some fun things and there are some extra fun things. And that must have been interesting. And what do you do? Like if you were to explain it to someone who has never had it before, how would you explain what the kind of work that you do?
Well, the kind of work I do is more policy-based because I transitioned from more energy-related to policy under climate change. So what I do is more of reviewing documents, listening to countries and their positions on what they're doing to change their regulations and policies on climate change, and then helping them also along the process. So I was under the innovation department, but we work more closely with cities because cities have challenges and perhaps they don't have the solution providers. So it was like workshops bringing the solution providers with the cities. They address their challenges and then they can be connected to the right people and also get inspired by other cities to implement different things in what they do. So I'd say my most recent role was more in policy and climate change, and that opened like my eyes into knowing what I want more in my journey as opposed to where I was before. So it was something that was exciting.
That's interesting. And where were you before?
Before?
Yeah, like when you say you were kind of transitioning from where you are before to understanding the things that now make you tick, where were you before that? What were you working on before that?
So my journey is a bit a mixture of everything because when I graduated, I started directly with lecturing at the university. So that was my first job ever, lecturing at the mechanical department in Chambogo University. So I was there for about 2 years, and then I felt I wanted to transition more into something a bit more hands-on, where you can go into the field and do something a bit different. And then that's when I went into quality assurance, and we were deployed into the field because there was a project where solar panels were being put across all health centers, and then it was to go to a solar fridge. And this had vaccines for mothers and children to save lives. So literally going all over the country doing that. And then that made me realize, okay, this is where I want to be. And then around that time, COVID hit. And so lecturing, universities are closed. With the field work, you're limited because of the restrictions. So I would say for about 5 months, I just spent looking around for what to do. And through LinkedIn, I was able to get an opportunity as a business developer with HDF, which is the Green Hydrogen to Power company. So that was now where I was fully immersed into the energy sector in Uganda, where I got to understand the electricity sector, advocate for green hydrogen in the energy policy. And yeah, so business development gave me, I would say, an opening into versatility. I was the accountant. I was everything, like a job for 10 people, because I was now the person in Uganda running this project to ensure that it can happen. And then from there, that's when I transitioned into pharmacy.
For people who are listening and maybe do not know yet, or maybe for the younger people, it would be good to understand what things like quality assurance mean, what things like when you talk about green energy, renewables, what do those things mean? How would you explain them to a layman?
Okay, so quality assurance, I would say the meaning is in the title. You're ensuring the quality of the product that has been produced. So here you had solar panels and fridges. And you sent on the field to ensure that the solar panels on the rooftops are well installed. You go and check the fridge to make sure it's working. You teach the staff at the hospital how to manage the fridge in case they have issues, who to call. So ensuring that everything is running in place. In case of any challenges, that's when now you go and find a solution to it. So that's quality assurance, ensuring that everything is running fine.
And that's very important work, especially in a country like Uganda.
Definitely, because it was very challenging because you have a short period of time and you have so many health centers in the most remote areas. So even accessing them is a challenge, and that actually gives you appreciation of the type of lives people live, because when you're in town and everything is accessible, but over there, one health center is like 10, 15, 20 kilometers away, and people walk these distances just to even give birth. So you see a lot of things, and it gives you a deeper appreciation for life and even for the basic things. So yeah, and then when we talk about green energy is anything that is renewable. So it does not get done. Like solar, wind, hydro, water is there, so it can always generate, power. So now with green hydrogen, this was something that was a bit new. It's still new, even in Africa. Not very many people understand. So when we say green hydrogen, because hydrogen has different colors, depending on how it's made. Gray hydrogen has been there for the longest because it's from petroleum. So it's the not clean kind, because it releases like carbon into the atmosphere. But with green, it's made from things like solar or hydro. And the key ingredient is water. So you're literally splitting oxygen, hydrogen, and just getting the hydrogen. And that can be later used to make electricity. So that being a new technology, that was where I faced the challenges of trying to advocate for it,
Trying to help others understand it.
Yes, because a lot of education went into it, because policymakers, they're not used to it, regulators, so you're always explaining and seeing how can it fit into the Ugandan context, so even East Africa as a whole. So yeah, that is basically when anything green is anything that is renewable.
Awesome. Did you always know that this is the kind of work that you wanted to do? Like how far back did you know, like in your childhood, like when did it hit you that, engineering is what I want to do?
Actually, no. Because when I was younger, I was assumed that I would be either a doctor or a pharmacist, and that was where
It's always been a doctor, pharmacist, lawyer, engineer.
engineering had never even crossed my mind. Yeah, so when I joined high school, I just knew I wanted to do sciences. I just didn't know what next. So that was my aim. Everything I did, I was like, okay, I want to just do sciences. Then when I was around senior 3, I had a classmate tell me, oh, I have a sister. She's studying in Algeria and she speaks French. And I was like, you know what? I think now that's where I want to be. I want to just study abroad, go to Algeria, and also learn French. So that was me previously. And everything I did, I was like, all I know is something sciences. And that's it. When I went to HSC, I said, fine, I only want sciences only. I don't want entrepreneurship or anything. So I just did purely sciences. And then when applying for uni, I applied for medicine. I applied for pharmacy. But then my teachers came up to me and told me that there's actually a scholarship in Algeria. Now they go, okay, this is actually becoming a reality. They're like, you can go and try your luck. And they were really helpful in terms of helping me to apply because they were really invested in my career. They don't even drag me to the ministry just so that I can fill out the forms. I filled them out and we did interviews and I was able to get a placement.
You must have been a very brilliant student. That kind of treatment is not for it's not for every student.
I know the people who are brilliant, but I guess it's also about personality.
Yeah.
Because I could relate to my teachers. Like, most people can't even talk to their teachers, but I wouldn't even go to the staff room and just chill. And we have conversations like, I tell them what I want, and so they got to understand me more. They became more like parents versus just disciplinary. So we just wanted to, instill fear. And that's one thing I appreciate about that we were able to just have conversations and they understand them. So yeah, when I went to Algeria, the first year is all about language. You're only studying French. And then after that year, you then decide you apply to somebody in the Ministry of Education in Algeria, stating the course you want to do and the location. And I applied for medicine in the university that's medicine. They're like, no. I'm like, okay, for medicine. They're like, no. And I'm like, okay, what is that? And I realized it's only engineering software. Engineering, and okay. So at first I was like, I wonder if this is for me. Because again, when you study your first year over there, you're not studying the actual discipline. It's general. And then when you go to second year, now when you specify what engineering discipline you want. So I looked at civil and I was like, I just don't feel like I want to look at buildings or look with the roads. I was like, this is not for me. Electric, I had a fear of electricity. I'm like, what if I'm doing an experiment and it kills me? And then I looked at other disciplines. They had mechatronics. So I was like, it still has electric something in there. I was like, no. And then the only thing I thought was like mechanical. And mechanical, now for this discipline, they have different types. There's energy. There's the traditional mechanical where you're dealing with machines. There's automated. So I chose the one that has energy. And I believe that was the best decision that I made. It's now what is more needed in the world today because everything we do, we're trying to look at going to cleaner energy. So yeah, I would say it was a struggle, but eventually I was able to decide and I don't regret that decision.
And during when you were studying at uni, did you know what exactly you would be doing after school? Because and I think I was sharing this before, what I thought I was going to do is different from what I actually found in the field. So how was that transition like for you from uni and then to actually, because I know you said you taught for a while. When you were starting to work, was that very divergent from what you had thought you would do in the field?
Definitely. I mean, when you graduate, you come back with this expectations in head and you come back thinking, okay, when I come back, I know Total is gonna hire me. I know like all the top firms, they're like, if they don't hire me, like really. So I came back with expectations in the world, and then I realized life is not as easy as that. You have to have some work experience, and internship is not it. And the fact that I studied abroad, so when you come back, it's like sometimes companies can't relate because they're like, okay, you did internship in this country, but we don't really understand or what, and they're more comfortable with people who have been in the system here. So number one, convincing them that you can do it, they're like, well, then the easiest thing to get into by then was lecturing because I had a master's and I had friends who were lecturers. So they're like, you can just start with that as you figure life out. So I was like, okay. And that's what I started with. But then, like I told you, I just felt like this is not it because there was a show I used to love watching when I was at uni called Africa Innovate. It's by Al Jazeera. And I really loved that show because they would show innovative things that are happening all over Africa. And you get to see like things as simple as children having solar-powered backpacks that can charge their iPad that they can leave in class. I was like, okay. And I realized like that's where I want to be, like somewhere a bit more innovative, hands of changing communities and all of that. And with lecturing, it's more like with academia, you're expected to go back into books. And I'm like, I do not want to go back for a PhD and have to publish over industry is not where I feel the most comfortable. So on one of the shows on Africa Innovate, there was a woman called Jane O'Rourke, and she was at the South Africa Space Station. And for some reason that piqued my interest because I was like, this is a Ugandan name, if I'm not mistaken. And what is she doing at the space station and how did she get there? So I reached out to her on LinkedIn. And I just asked, I was like, hey, I'm watching on Africa Innovate. I love that show and I'm impressed. And when I looked at your CV, it shows you were also a lecturer at Bulgarian University. I was like, how did you transition from lecturing into the field? Because I feel like this is not where I want to be. And I'm just lucky that she actually responded back. Because with LinkedIn, it's, you either get a response or not. And she really took her time and she sent a very long response, like detailed, like, you know, it wasn't easy, but you have to know what you want. There's always a starting point. You just keep applying. You never know where it will take you. So I would say that was a very key turning point because I was like, okay, if Jane can do it, why can't I? So around the lockdown now when universities were not open and fieldwork was few, I used to do translation work for a company. So translation English, French, English, since I speak the language, and it was an energy company. So I was like, okay, let me just update this on LinkedIn. I mean, it's not much, but let me just do it. So I just put translator for this energy company, or rather I put consultant, because I was like, I'm literally the consulting me for that. And she liked it. Jane liked that post. And because she liked that post, I feel like it started a chain of events. Someone now reached out to me, and he was the director of the company that I got hired. So he reached out, he was like, hey, we're looking at opening up something in Uganda and we need people on the ground. Like, I've seen a bit of your profile. I'm like, since you speak French, I mean, this is a French company. Would you be interested? So it was back and forth, talk, and eventually that's how I got the job. And I was like, wow. It just started by reaching out to someone. So I was like, had I not reached out, or even just put up something, she would never have reacted and I would never had that opportunity. So I'm like, never hold back from posting, even if it's something so little. You can just maybe change the name, but put it on LinkedIn because you never know who's watching. Because a lot of times I feel like LinkedIn has opportunities and it's always from the people in circles. They're always looking for someone, but they just don't know where to start. But when they see engagement, that's one way that they can.
That's so powerful. And I think especially for women, because we are not very confident or forward about even our achievements, and that is something that I'm also personally trying to work on. And I think that's such an interesting, powerful thing. We can maybe next talk about your work today, like your everyday work. We've already talked about that, haven't we?
We've talked about career, but not maybe like day to day. Because now, after I transitioned from field work, the work that I did was remote work. Remote work in the sense that the company is located anywhere in the world and you're the face of the company. So they give you tasks and it's on you to manage your time, but expect deliverables. So when I did this, I realized this is not where I want to be. In the sense that I control my time. I don't have to be in an office from 8 to 5 because there's no office. My office is anywhere in the world. I can even decide to travel up country as long as we're in contact. So I realized, okay, this is actually where I would want to be more based in remote work with flexible working hours. So day to day, you have to let, now that is where you have the true test about discipline. That's when you make it disciplined or not. And you just have to make a schedule, just like anything. You have to be accountable to yourself because for them, they expect results. They don't really care about how you spend it. Are you delivering? So you have to make sure that you're interacting with people on the outside world because you can't be an island. Now with green hydrogen, I had to always be at the ministry. I always had to be interacting with development organizations, with financial institutions. So I was always at the ministry, always in their faces. To the point they just gave me a key. They're like, there's this office. You can just sit there, So that's how we were able to be there. And then when I transitioned into policy under climate change with UN climate change, again, yes, it's an office setting, but it's almost in the same kind of way where they expect results. Yes, they're working hours, but they're not as stringent where 8 to 5 you have to, clock out. So it comes with a bit of flexibility, but at the end of the day, what they care about is results. And I feel like the face of employment should also adapt, because that's, I think, a result of COVID, where people realize that,
People can work from
and frankly, you can actually work from home. You can be in the office but be very unproductive, but I can work from home and actually deliver way more. So a bit of travel here and there, and
nice. Where people get to travel while we work.
I mean, travel locally.
I
really nailed work, like you're being sent up country to go, and also, for example, we're looking at having a project, let's say in the northern part of Uganda, because that's where there's a lot of good solar resource, the energy needs, because there are a lot of upcoming industries there. So you're going to now again go and educate the government officials over there. So but I say I traveled the most when I did field work, because I literally went in all regions in Uganda. So there's no region that I'm not familiar with, north, east, west.
And what has that experience been like for you? And I'm asking because a lot of the younger people right out of uni do not want to go up country. They feel like, oh, that's too far. They'll rather stay around and be comfortable. How has that experience been like for you?
Like I said, it's eye-opening because it gives you a better appreciation of life, because we take things for granted when you're in town, because literally the facilities where I would go and do the work, it's the maternal. So that's where they put drugs like oxytocin and vaccines for babies. So you're literally near the maternity ward. As you're trying to figure out to make sure that the machine is working, a woman is just giving birth next door. One minute you hear the lady coming, the next minute you hear a baby crying. I'm like, and life moves on. But then you realize, just with this fridge being brought here, the mortality rates are going down, because they would use these coolers, and you're like, that's not efficient. So for the younger people, I would say, while you're still young, you have time. Structure it. Give yourself like, okay, I'm going to just do this for a year or 2 years, and then you move on. Because what you need is the experience. That is number one. So you're looking at, do I need so yes, you can be up country, but at the end of the day, what's your end goal? Because you can be in town and slay all you want, but then you have nothing to show for it, So it's all about giving yourself a timeline, just the way I gave myself a timeline when it came to teaching. I was like, I'm only doing this, but I feel like after 2 to 3 years, I'm done. I need to have more. So always give yourself timelines, and know that it is a temporary discomfort, but in the future you will thank you for that, because maybe that's what somebody needs for your next goal.
Did you have like maybe a support system in terms of mentors to keep you accountable? Like, by the way, Sana, you said you're only doing this 3 years. What's happening over there?
Actually, no. I didn't have mentors. Everything I did, I would just go and ask people. People who are in the industry. Like, I love sitting with females, and I just asked, like, for example, we went to Rwanda for a conference. This was when I was working with an energy company. And over there was the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Energy. And one thing about conferences, when you're out in the country, it's easier to approach these people because they don't have bodyguards, they're more relaxed. So I approached, I'm like, we're trying to do a project. I'm here in Uganda, and I'd love to sit down with you and just get your insights and also know more about how you were able to become a permanent secretary. And she was nice enough to be like, okay, I'll be in Kampala, let's say next week, come see me on Thursday.
Nice.
I just went to her office. I'm like, how did you do it? So she just told me, she started, of course, working in the ministry, and it was levels to it. She told me you have to have a good work ethic. So I don't have mentors per se, but I just love hearing people's stories and learning from others, because not everyone is privileged to have someone to be there like, are you doing this? At the end of the day, you have to be accountable for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. And how do you think you've been able to grow such big confidence? Because like I said, a lot of the times we're very timid, we're scared, we'll second guess it. So how have you reached the level where you're like, I want this, that's the permanent secretary right there, I'm going to go and talk to them, and this is what I'm going to say?
I can tell you my kids. No, like that is it. Like I'm an introvert, I'm shy. Like I do not like conferences actually. Like when I go there, I'm like, oh God, I have to interact with people. I'm not gonna sit in the corner and just mind my business. But one of the reasons why I appreciated business development is that it put me into my uncomfortable zone. I'm like, this is a job where a minister is working and you have to approach them and be like, hey, can I have a minute of your time? They can say no.
Yeah.
But then there's this guy I watched on YouTube. I don't even know who he is. I can't remember his name. But he said he's shy and he wanted to overcome the fear. So he said he's going to ask people questions that he knows they'll say no to. So he's like, after Saturday, he will come up to a stranger like, hey, can I have $100? They're like, no. Okay. He goes to a bar. He's like, hey, can I have medicine? They're like, no.
Yeah.
So he realized that the more you're accustomed to hearing no, it's not that deep.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. Yeah.
And also you have to learn people's skills because I went on online YouTube where to understand people's skills. You have to learn how to read body language. Look at someone before you approach them and be like, do they look like they want to be approached? If not, what's the best way to approach? Like you have to also do some reading on people. So it's not just because I know some people who are very overbearing and it's annoying. Like all the time. So I had to learn people's skills. Like you approach, be friendly, like, you know, not always come with work immediately. You can start topics from something very random. And then from there, you know, when you feel like they're comfortable, you can then talk to them. So I wasn't born with this confident. I had to fight to go. But also at high school, I said, let me join the debating team for a bit just to learn how to speak. So you have to face your fears.
You do. You're very eloquent, Maida. Yeah.
So yeah, it's all about facing your fears. I mean, I would say it's one of the most challenging roles I had because I designed pamphlets. I had to design budgets. I had to be the people skills, and then also I had to organize panel discussions and workshops. So it's like they're not giving you like, oh, we have someone who will take everything. It's on you. You sink or swim. So every time you wake up, you have to ask yourself, will I sink or swim today? So I'm like, you have no choice. I've never hosted a panel discussion, but here I am. I had to host it. I had to look for panelists. I had to look for the questions and then do it.
Yeah.
So if you're afraid of trying, you will never know how good you are until you try. It's okay to fail.
Yeah, that's
It's very okay to fail. It's okay to not know how to do something. Ask for help. From the network, just ask for help. That's it.
And I think a lot of people need to hear that again, that it's okay to fail. And when you fail, it's like, that's the past you're failing, right? Then you know what's not working. And then, you know, try and do better and build from there. And maybe we can also talk about how you think your work impacts the people that you do it for.
Well, on a work basis, when I say with climate change, of course, it's something that you can't avoid. So things like floods, famine, drought, all these are because of weather changes. So in working with an organization like that, you realize that there's so many innovations happening and what the people are not aware. Say I have a farmer in the village who's not aware that, for example, that crops are not yielding at the same time they used to before because of climate change, and he needs to adapt to the change. So he's still believing on what his grandfathers used to do, right? So with technology, they can get SMS messages on weather updates because, like I said, with space stations, they can tell when the next drought will happen, when floods are approaching and all that. So due to technology, they're able to adjust, you know? So it's already creating dynamic changes. When it comes to energy, clean cooking method, that one I believe it's always an uphill battle because people are used to firewood and charcoal, so getting them to now use different sources of cooking. So what I appreciate when I watch, because I always like tap into a little bit of this, is that you have to understand the context and also especially to foreign organizations, sometimes they come and be like, oh, this worked in India, this will work in Uganda. No. Because you find the dynamics are a bit different. So I would say on that, you could see like little changes happening on the environment. But then on a personal level, I felt like because I've been in this, I've changed my CV 100 times to when I'm applying to different jobs. I've been privileged to be on the interviewer panel for certain jobs where we're interviewing people, reviewing CVs. I realized that not very many Ugandans know how to structure their CVs to speak to their strengths and highlight, their past experiences. Someone will send you a CV, there's no even which year he worked at an industry or what. It's just like, let's say, engineer here and that's it. So what I did for a bit, I think during lockdown, and this is something that I want to revive, is I'll tell people, send me your CV just for like 5K. I will restructure it and send it back to you so you can properly apply for jobs. And I feel like what I want to do, because with lecturing, at least I understood how students are. Students don't necessarily know how to talk to people. They fear people of authority. So it's like, oh, they're very nervous when they approach you. So I would want to do something where I can also coach students to be like, you know what, now you're going to the work field. How are you going to approach people? How are you going to structure this thing? How are you going to present yourself? And that's something that I feel like is something that is going to be in my next, I foresee in my next couple of years in my journey. So I did that for a bit and I realized there is actually a need. And it doesn't have to be very expensive, yeah.
Okay. What are some of the top, maybe about 3 things that you think like common things people go wrong while they're doing their CVs?
They don't speak to their strengths. You can't say I was an engineer, let's say, at this industry. All I did is conducted, let's say, supervised, checked the machinery. Like, it's the way you put these words. And thanks to ChatGPT, things like that, it also helps the structure a bit better. But people don't speak to their strengths. The CV sometimes are a bit disorganized. You have information that is like, you have work experience, then someone is putting education, then again they come back to work experience. Like, it's a bit
jumbled.
Exactly, all over the place.
Yeah.
So I would say those are the top 2 that I noticed when I looked at a couple of CVs. They're not speaking to themselves and it's not properly structured.
And how does someone speak to their strengths?
Well, look at it this way. For every job you did, you have to make sure that there was impact.
Oh, yeah.
For every job you did, no matter how small.
Yeah.
Let's say you were let's say desk receptionist. What did you do that was impactful? For example, you could say that you suggested in the way maybe they do a certain thing, they try another method and it was more successful. That already shows impact, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what employers usually want to see, that there's something that stood out. You're not always a follower. There are also bits of leadership that she showed in some of the things that she did.
How has your experience of being a woman in the engineering field been? Because we are very less than 12%, I think. Last time I checked, we are not a very big number. Have you felt that, oh my God, we are few? Or have you consistently felt that maybe we need more women? How has that experience been like for you?
Well, that's true. These are male-dominated fields. I mean, in my class, we were like 5-6 females in a class of 100. So definitely, and you know, people always assume that engineers have a certain look, that when you say I'm an engineer, they're like, really? And now someone like me, I'm typically a very flashy person. It's just that today's a Friday, so I've toned it down. So I like wearing bright colors. I wear pinks, reds, you know. I love expressing myself through makeup and all of that. So I guess the challenge is because there's a project that I worked on when I was at the UN, and this was called the Green Innovations Project. So it's for youth and women entrepreneurs in the green space. And they published a book and it talked about challenges women face. And I also happened to attend a panel discussion on this. And what they were saying is exactly what I'm facing, in the sense that, let's say you go for a meeting, now business development. You're talking about the project, you're talking about how maybe the country needs it. But because there are men in the room, there's a way they don't take you seriously as a female. They just laugh. They're like, okay, then they now look at the man. They're like, let's talk man to man. You get it? So it's like you're almost fine, like in the sense that, okay, you're here maybe just to cover a demographic to show that there was gender balance, but there's not much you can contribute. So people to take you seriously, number one, that is a challenge that is faced. And you know, when you do field work and you meet all types of people, one thing I admire about men is that they have the audacity.
Yeah.
The audacity, because they can say the most out-of-pocket things and
they get away with it.
Exactly. And so the hardest thing is because on top of being female, Black, I'm now Muslim. And for some reason, it rubs people the wrong way. So I've also experienced like in the workspace where someone said something about your faith. Like, oh, every time you meet this person, like, oh, you should come to church, you should come to church. I'm like, okay, I get it.
we're few in the country, but I'm happy in my fit. Let it be. So you're like, if I react, they'll be like, she's a woman. You see? Are you on your period? You know, like such questions. It's not like I'm actually offended. Would you like it if I said the same thing to you? You know? So it's like you're always struggling with how can I regulate my emotions? You don't want to also be too assertive because when you're too firm on your boundaries, they're like, she's difficult to work with. She's difficult to work with. Who can work with her? She's always, you know. When you're too lax, again, the disrespect comes in. So it's a constant battle with navigating all these things, trying to find your place, trying to also stand your ground. So that's always a challenge.
And how have you navigated that?
That's something I'm still learning to navigate, honestly. It's still a battle that I deal with because sometimes my only regret is I wish that I didn't speak up earlier in certain instances where I would have told this person that, okay, I told the person whatever you're doing is not right. They're like, whatever. So it's like maybe speak up to authority and not always try to be so accommodating. It's okay to have boundaries, be firm, and then if they hate you, let them hate you. But at the end of the day, you're getting the work done. I'm not here to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here to also work. So yeah, so that's something that needs to, I think, even be studied. I mean, when you look at it socially, now, I don't know if it's a Muslim thing or just generally, like even men already start there. The moment we say engineer, they're like, okay, I'm out. So it's all about being true to yourself. Of course, don't be a bad person.
Yeah.
Just be an okay person, but
Be a respectful person, but a respectful person with
boundaries.
Yeah.
It's okay to have boundaries.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot of emotional intelligence from these roles because you can't just lose it whenever you're dealing with people. So you need to learn how to deal with it in a tactful manner.
Thank you so much for sharing. Is there any particular topic that you're passionate about that you want to talk about?
For me, I would say the topics that I'm passionate about is human interactions. Because I would say that's the most, like, from lecturing, that was a human interaction job. You're dealing with young adults. Then in the field, you're dealing with professionals from all sectors, from all levels. You know, you're dealing with, let's say, the day-to-day people who will be literally the clients. I would say that is something that I'm passionate about because it gave me a very good understanding and appreciation of how to deal with different people. You know, in the sense that even when people would approach me but they come at me wrong, you're like, okay, I wish I could tell this person, like, I understand what you're looking for. Like, someone can call you up and be like, I want a job. You're like, It's okay to want a job, but it's the way you approach.
Yeah.
Maybe you can come, but you're coming off-putted. There's a different way to it, you know? So that's why it comes back to what I said, like, this is something where I feel like maybe I would want to go back and now be a mentor at the university because I'm like lecturing you. But I would rather go back and be a mentor and just be like, okay, these are the do's and don'ts in people's skills in the professional world.
Yep.
Do not mix professional with personal. And that's where I think a lot of times it happens where because you're friendly to a workmate, when now they think they can cross certain boundaries. These are your workmates, they're also entitled to a certain level of respect regardless of how many years you've known them. So yeah, that is something where I feel like I would want to come back and make a contribution in that regard.
Yeah. If you've got any questions, if you're looking for a mentor and you're a mechanical engineer, I really like what she said about being open to reaching out to people and not being afraid to say something, to ask for help, and also that it's really okay to fail because you know what's not working. It's okay not to know certain things. You can't know everything. And we're always consistently learning. And I would just like us to wrap up with just 5 fun questions that you can answer, short or a bit longer, whatever you prefer. Yeah. What's a common engineering myth or stereotype that you'd love to debunk?
Okay. For me, I'll talk about it from a female perspective. Is that female engineers need to look rugged or like...
I know.
Like I said, I am expressive. I love bright colors. I will wear red lipstick. I will wear, let's say, bright colors, as long as they're like formal, but I have an artistic side. So for me, I'm like, I will not let that side die because I can draw. I used to actually even do makeup. I would say my first jobs when I had just graduated. Because I learned how to do makeup in Algeria. So when I came back, I even got a couple of brides. I was like, I was in my element. I was happy with that. But then I was like, okay, time to get. So that was more on the side until I couldn't be in anymore. So I just did it on me. So, I mean, being an engineer does not stop you from expressing yourself. If you have an artistic side or whichever side, like you can just be, but what matters is the quality of your work. So that should always be your key takeaway. What is the quality of your work, you know? So yeah, that is just one thing.
Yeah, that's so true. And I do think that how you look matters. And I genuinely think people treat good-looking people better. And by that I mean, if you're dressed well, you know, like the makeup doesn't have to be extreme, but like do some light makeup, look good, smell good. It changes something.
Let me tell you, because again, that conference that I attended in Rwanda, so the CEO of Sustainable Energy for All, she's Nigerian, she's called Damilola Ogunde, so she's also someone that I look up to. When I saw her come for that conference, now the president of Rwanda was there and very high-level delegates. She walks in with 6-inch heels, she had blue eyeshadow and a bust-down wig. I'm like, and she was wearing a dress that is... So I looked at that and I was like, wait, she has all these credentials and she shows up like this. And that's what I thought with Nigerians, like they show up and they show out. So it's like, if they can express themselves like this, why have I been holding it because I'm always in gray and what? I was like, you know what? Let me also be more expressive. So that showed me that the game is changing a bit, you know? So people are not holding back. And when they sit and talk, you really see that they have a lot of information to share. So,
what engineering challenge do you think will define the next decade?
I would say climate change. It's already defining it now. But in the next decade, it will be way more important because already now we're seeing that because of climate change, things like snow, places that didn't have snow are snowing.
Yeah.
So if that's happening, you'll need heating. So decarbonization is going to be number one. Decarbonization across very many sectors. So you have infrastructure, transport, So what are the ways they can decarbonize? What new technologies can they bring in, you know? Even when it comes to the renewable space, solar panels and even batteries, some of the key ingredients that they use, ingredients and the components, they are sourced from, let's say, the earth or what. So the reserves are not going to be there for a long time. So they need to look for, okay, what else can you use in these that we can continue? So decarbonization, I believe, is going to be key. And there's going to be a lot of need for innovation and technology as we go ahead.
What's your go-to drink when you're trying to smash out a report or having a long day of work? Like, what's the go-to drink or snack?
A go-to drink. Because for me, I try to stay away from sugars because one thing I realized when you do a lot of desktop work, it's very easy to gain weight because you're sitting, you're eating and what. So I just try to always have lemon with water. I'll just keep that on the side just to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
But for snacks, I'm a big snacker. So I always have a pack of crisps or something there.
Which ones?
I like Doritos. Doritos and anything with cheese. So I make up for that by working out.
Okay. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
This is very funny. Now, I have a guilty pleasure show on Netflix, RuPaul's Drag Race.
Okay.
It's my guilty pleasure. I wouldn't expect that. That exactly. I love that show because, fine, it's men in drag. I just, of course, I'm artistic. I love makeup. So I love how they might even have a little bit of a beard, but they can cover everything up. And so this advice wasn't directly to me, but now RuPaul, at the end of every episode, he always says the same thing. If you don't love yourself, how the hell do you expect anyone else to love you, you know? And he says it every time. So at first you're like, it's fun. But then it sets in, it's like, self-love starts with you. Like, you can't expect someone to come and love you. You have to love yourself. And in loving yourself, what does that mean? You take care of yourself. You can't tell someone you're not eating right, you're not working hard, but then yourself, you're not doing it, you know? So self-love is accepting yourself, forgiving yourself for making mistakes, and doing things that are beneficial for you. So everything you do in life will manifest in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Okay. So typically, I try to incorporate workouts at home. I mean, because not every time you find time to go to the gym. So for me, I love Grow with Joe because she has like 10, 12-minute dance workouts. Because I feel like after you do that and you take a shower, it's a night you so more relaxed. And then from there, just watch a bit of TV, scroll a bit, respond to messages. So yeah.
Thanks again. Thank you so much. I've had such fun talking to you, and I'm certain there are lots of takeaways that people are going to get from this. You can feel free to share your socials, your LinkedIn, where people can find you. Yeah.
Definitely, and thank you for having me. I'd like to say this is something that I was excited about because I believe everyone needs to share their story and so people can be inspired. And I'm sure I'll share with you my socials so you can get the right links and then maybe post it. But to anyone who's watching, whether you're female or male and maybe you're a bit stuck in your career, like feel free to reach out to me like on LinkedIn. I mean, it's always open. I can always respond and, help you out a bit because I've also helped people like, if they want to change their LinkedIn profile just for it to be a bit more professional, I have no issue, offering those bits of advice. So I'm always looking to lend a helping hand.
Awesome. Thanks again. And that brings us to the end. Feel free, don't forget to subscribe, follow us, and share with people that you think might find it helpful. And see you next time.